of more than 3,300 delegates to the Democratic Convention, which represents the vast majority of all the pledged delegates, making her the party's de facto nominee. According to her campaign, Harris raised more than $100 million in the first 36 hours after she replaced Biden at the top of the ticket. That cash infusion more than doubles the $96 million cash on hand that the Biden-Harris campaign had at the end of June. And the money has just continued to pour in. Her run has also mobilized thousands of volunteers across the country. They're not just signing up to help Harris campaign, but also for other Democrats in down-ballot races. Democratic Party's biggest names have thrown their support behind her, including congressional leaders like Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and Nancy Pelosi. And most recently, she received a high-profile endorsement from Barack and Michelle Obama, who pledged to do everything we can, they say, to make sure she wins in November. She's even received Beyonce's approval to use her song Freedom throughout her campaign. Harris's entry into the presidential race has unquestionably given Democrats the much-needed boost of enthusiasm that had been lacking this year, but it's too early to tell if her bid can actually move the needle for Democrats. The overall status of the presidential contest remains close. The latest national polling by the New York Times and Siena College shows Donald Trump leading Harris by 1 point among likely voters and 2 points among registered voters. Both of those results are well within the margin of error. Like the past few elections, this race will be decided by a handful of battleground states. And lately, it seemed like the most crucial battleground states this year are the ones along the industrial Midwest, an area sometimes referred to as the Rust Belt. It's a region of the country that encompasses parts of Wisconsin, Michigan, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Western New York. It used to be called the Steel Belt, referring to the part of the country where steelmaking, automobile manufacturing, and coal mining were once the dominant industries. The term Rust Belt refers to that same region's economic and industrial decline during the mid to late 20th century, and some people now consider it a pejorative term because it's an outdated moniker that neglects the region's revival in recent years. Its political significance is one reason why this year's Republican National Convention was held in the city of Milwaukee, the same city that Harris chose as the site of her first official rally of her own presidential campaign. Next month, the Democratic Party will hold its convention in another city in that region, Chicago. Both campaigns understand how important the region is to winning the election. In 2016, Trump won the 3 swing states within the industrial Midwest: Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. In 2020, those same 3 states went for Biden. This year, as Biden's support has eroded in the battleground states of Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania have offered Democrats the best path to victory. Trump likely can't win without flipping at least one of those states either, and it probably factored into his thinking when he chose Ohio Senator J.D. Vance to be his running mate. One speaker at this year's RNC even referred to Vance as, quote, the Rust Belt boost candidate. And this appears to factor into Harris's thinking as well, because among those in consideration to be her running mate are Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who once served as the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. This region of the country is looming large over this year's election, so you should expect to hear more about it as the candidates and their surrogates return to the region over and over again in the coming months. For more on this, I'm joined by Alencia Johnson. She's a former senior advisor to Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign, and my friend Michael Steele, former chairman of the Republican National Committee. Of course, you know him as one of the co-hosts of the program The Weekend that airs right before Velshi, right here on MSNBC. Hello to both of you. Michael, good to see you just a few minutes after we said hello. And Alencia, good to see you again. You and I were together about 12 hours ago talking about this. One of the things you talked about, Alencia, that it doesn't seem Donald Trump has done with his running mate, J.D. Vance, but Kamala Harris wants to do is expand the board a little bit. Bring somebody in as her vice presidential candidate who's going to get her votes that might not naturally or already be there. And the industrial Midwest is one of those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Vice President Harris is looking for a running mate that can pick up some of those votes and can also be a great surrogate in these states. I mean, the reality is today is 101 days until Election Day, and whoever the nominee is will probably just post up in one of those states and travel throughout the Midwest. one of the things that is really interesting that has come about as we see the groundswell of organic organized support from so many different factions who weren't as enthused about this election is that now there's used to be a play for Georgia, Arizona. We seem a lot stronger in some of these other swing states. And so we can widen our map and widen our path to victory. But again, all of these things are in consideration as she looks at her vice president pick, one that can also continue this momentum and bring this enthusiasm that we have, that we need to continue towards as we get to Election Day.
And Michael, there are all sorts of reasons why different parts of the country are important, and we'll want to talk about all of them over the course of the next few months. But this particular region of the country, the industrial Midwest, was once known as the Blue Wall. It was largely a Democratic stronghold, strong unionization in those factories. What happened, and how were Republicans able to gain ground in this region, and how do you see that playing out in the next few months?
Yeah, I think it's a very important point to focus on, because the Blue Wall was the number of electoral votes that it was actually an advantage that Democrats had going into presidential cycles, where they really only had to win one state, Florida, or pick another state to get to 270. Republicans had a harder climb. What Trump did in 2016 was he not only chipped at that wall, but he moved 3 of its bricks: Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And that reset the electoral map for Republicans. And when you pull back how he did it, it was really appealing to working class, white suburban voters, and focusing on those issues that were driving them at that time. And a lot of those folks aligned with Trump and in large measures have stayed with him. The challenge then became in 20, keeping those bricks and holding on to them. Biden was able to pull them back. And the way he did it was, again, making that appeal very much, as you've noted, to that region of the country and specifically to those voters. This election is no different. Now, those 3 bricks, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, are sitting there on the table. And the question is, who can grab them first? Of those bricks for Democrats, I believe, probably the most important is Pennsylvania, because the map is much more difficult if they don't win Pennsylvania. And so I think you'll see a lot of focus, whether Josh Shapiro is the vice presidential nominee or not, a lot of focus on the state of Pennsylvania and what it has come to mean as the quintessential battleground state. It has replaced, remember, Florida. It's now Pennsylvania in many respects. What is, to Alencia's point, which is very important to note, with the transition to Kamala Harris, the field has broadened. It has become much more of a better play for Democrats, more competitive now in Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, et cetera. So the math works a little bit better for them, and that's what's going to make this race so much more dynamic than it was 2 weeks ago.
Alencia, one of the things that Joe Biden had in his pocket is that he is the unionist president in memory. We knew that going into his campaign. He demonstrated that during the election. It was a bit surprising to see the head of the Teamsters Union speaking at the Republican National Convention, given that the president was very involved in averting that Teamsters strike at UPS. I had Sean Fain from the United Auto Workers on last night. He stopped short of endorsing Kamala Harris, but I got the sense that that'll come in a matter of days. I'll be speaking to Sarah Nelson and Randy Weingarten later this weekend. What does Kamala Harris need to do to inherit, as part of that administration, the strong union support? Because there is some correlation between that and the part of the country we're talking about.
Well, listen, one of the things she's probably considering is her running mate's record with working with unions and how they feel about their record. And that is a very big decision to make. You know, with unions comes a lot of on-the-ground organizing and speaking directly to working class members. You know, we saw President Biden actually go to the picket lines. And I think folks have to see Vice President Harris position herself that well as well. But as long as I've known her in politics, she's not afraid of actually standing up to big corporations and working on behalf of workers' rights. Her speeches this week were incredibly powerful, talking about how unions and labor workers, the labor movement, has significantly shaped our nation when it comes to all of the benefits for workers. And one thing I also want to add, too, in addition to this speaking to working class voters, particularly in these 3 swing states, other issues that Democrats have been running on the past 4 years are also doing well in these states. We have Democratic governors in these states. We have, wins around abortion access in these states. So that, on top of the ability to talk to these rural workers, to these union members, will be a really strong opportunity for us. And she's looking for a running mate that's going to complement to that and add to it.
Michael, talk to me about the other theme that Kamala Harris has come out with this week, which, is different than what we talk about. Lindsay and I talked about this last night, where we're worried about democracy. We're worried about when Trump says things like, you're not going to have to vote again after this election. He's going to be a dictator for a day. Kamala Harris is leaning into the future. Kamala Harris is leaning into these themes of freedom, which are connected to, obviously, reproductive rights. But it seems sunnier and more... It seems brighter than what Donald Trump seems to offer.
Well, it is on a number of levels. And I think for voters who are trying to figure out where hope lies, I think thematically and certainly through her speeches that she's done so far, that's where she's headed. And she wants folks to follow her there. It is hope, but it is hope that is grounded in freedom. And it's an interesting combination. I think, this idea of choice is not just about abortion, but it's the ability to choose to make choices in our lives that accentuate and actually serve as an example of the freedoms we have here in this country. Why people come to the United States. Kamala Harris is prepared to talk about that. Republicans want to throw the border czar narrative at her and make it a negative. But her comeback is, well, we negotiated a way forward, a hopeful way forward. We got conservatives and progressives in the room and hashed out an agreement. It was you, Donald Trump, who said, tear it up for political reasons. I need something to run on in November. You didn't care about the country, and you didn't care about the freedom that people have to make the types of choices that you want to take away from them. So I think she's creating a very interesting place and space for this campaign narratively, juxtaposed against the sort of darker tones of Trump, which talks about, I'm your retribution, I'm going to be a dictator, and by the way, this will be the last time you get to vote.
I am grateful to both of you for kicking us off. Thank you so much to you, friends. Alencia Johnson for doing double duty in the last 2 shows I've done. Former senior advisor to Joe Biden's 2020 campaign. Michael Steele, thank you, my friend. Former chairman of the Republican National Committee and co-host of The Weekend that airs on MSNBC right before Velshi from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Remember, tomorrow morning we're kicking it off, a whole day of 100 days until the election, starting on the weekend. All right, coming up, I'll be joined by a senator from one of these important swing states we've been discussing, Senator Gary Peters of Michigan, who's also chair of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. Tomorrow marks 100 days until Election Day. And beginning at 8 a.m. Eastern, as I mentioned, a cohort of my MSNBC colleagues and I will break down what comes next in this historic election and what surprises may still be in store. Speaking of Election Day and surprises, according to Donald Trump, if he has his way, this election might be our last.
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
Progressive makes it easy to save with a quick commercial auto quote online. So you can get back to your monster to-do list.
Really?
Get a quote at progressivecommercial.com.
You owe me 10 grand. Who's this fella calling the shots?
Someone was dead. You can sort it.
No.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste, and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
You know, there's this thing called age, and it sucks.
If you're over 50, imagine you could turn back the clock on your stiff, achy joints by years. Introducing InstaFlex Advanced.
It's restored my joints without just temporarily masking my symptoms. When you can find a product that can take that away to the point that you can live your life again, that is a miracle to me.
Get a complimentary sample by texting SECRET to 231231. InstaFlex Advanced targets the root cause of joint soreness and stiffness with a unique combination of 5 key natural ingredients. Key ingredients backed by 5 clinical studies.
I love this product. I'm telling you, it works.
InstaFlex Advanced is the #1 selling joint brand at GNC, but you can only get your complimentary sample by texting SECRET to 231231. Plus, text now, and we'll include a tube of InstaFlex pain cream for fast-acting relief absolutely free. Text SECRET to 231231 today.
DealDash.com. Online auctions since 2009. This PlayStation 5 sold for only 50 cents. This iPad Pro sold for less than $34. And this Nintendo Switch sold for less than $20. Go to DealDash.com and see how much you can save.
After Homoglow cleaned our place for $19, we fired our old housekeeper. Homoglow tackled everything from our kitchen to our bathroom, all our laundry. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19.
Which is worse, being written out of the American dream and feeling that you've been rendered largely invisible, or witnessing a political charlatan hijack your voice to push an agenda that perpetuates your erasure? Since now Vice Presidential candidate J.D. Vance published his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, in 2016, it's faced a chorus of criticism from many in Appalachia who accuse him of distorting his rags to riches story by making generalizations about a region that spans 13 states in which 26.4 million people live. The renowned social justice advocate Brian Stevenson once said, quote, "The greatest pain is to be seen as a problem to be fixed instead of a person to be loved." Vance's book exemplifies this. It portrays Appalachians as lazy, ignorant drug addicts, a long-form rehashing of Ronald Reagan's notorious welfare queen stereotype, one that's used by conservatives to justify cuts to government assistance. Vance, a retired Marine and Yale Law School grad turned tech bro, takes great liberties in speaking in the name of Appalachia's poor white communities, but he didn't actually grow up as a fabled hillbilly from Appalachia. He's from Middletown, Ohio, a suburb of Cincinnati, which is technically not even part of Appalachia. By the time he was born, he was 2 generations removed from that region. Hillbilly Elegy is less a memoir than a privileged outsider's classist take on an entire region. Vance's generalizations. He generalizes his family's experience, including his mother's very serious drug addiction, to all of Appalachia. He never considers the broader context of poverty, such as the opioid crisis that has left Appalachian communities devastated. It's a fact he conveniently leaves out, perhaps because of his ties to Purdue Pharma, the drug company that strategically targeted the region, flooding it with opioids. Vance's depictions of Appalachia mirror the dehumanizing narratives that have long been used to justify the exploitation of its labor and its land. Appalachian writer Meredith McCarroll sees Vance as part of this long and troubled history, writing, quote, "First it was timber, later it was coal, now it's identity." Vance tapped a vein and extracted an identity that allows him to be of the people while he blames the people for their challenges. He climbed the ladder and he pulled it up behind him, blaming those left behind, end quote. Vance, in fact, ignores mountains of evidence showing that Appalachia suffers from a history of government neglect and corporate exploitation. According to two researchers who profiled hundreds of people in the region, quote, "They worked harder than either of us ever will, but still could not pay their bills." Public policy should not be based on a golden boy who beats the odds. It should recognize the experiences of vast swaths of Americans who are following all the rules and still falling behind, end quote. Vance's distortion of Appalachia to advance his political ambitions is part of a larger troubling pattern with the Ohio senator, his opportunism, and his naked ambition. Republican Senator Mitt Romney noted this character flaw early on, saying he couldn't disrespect someone more than he did J.D. Vance. His criticism came after Vance did a complete 180 on Donald Trump, going from being a vocal critic and labeling him America's Hitler to fully embracing the MAGA movement in the run-up to his 2022 Senate campaign. Romney, speaking to his biographer, mused, quote, "How can you go over a line so stark as that? It's like, really? You sell yourself so cheap?" Now, with Vice President Kamala Harris at the top of the Democratic ticket, the GOP's assumptions about the race have been entirely upended, and Vance's controversial history is suddenly looking less appealing to Republicans who worry that he could actually repel swing voters. Recent polling shows that Vance is deeply unpopular, but now he's part of Trump's team. Together, the convicted felon and the wannabe hillbilly, selling snake oil to ordinary Americans. But if recent polls are any indication, it's not so clear that the con is working anymore. Perhaps it's best we heed the warnings of those who saw through Vance early on. Like the aforementioned Meredith McCarroll, who in 2023 wrote, quote, "As Vance enters the halls of the U.S. Senate with a narrative of oppression, blaming not Purdue Pharma, but his addicted mother. Blaming not the tax breaks that move jobs out of the country, but the immigrants who seek a new home. Blaming not the systems of poverty that were perpetuated in his family, but rather the laziness of his own family. The stories he chooses to tell matter. Pay attention to his narratives. They have taken him far and can continue to shift to carry him even farther."
Ooh, this is our night.
Shingles doesn't care, but Shingrix protects. Only Shingrix is proven over 90% effective. Shingrix is a vaccine used to prevent shingles in adults 50 years and older. Shingrix does not protect everyone and is not for those with severe allergic reactions to its ingredients or to a previous dose. An increased risk of Guillain-Barré syndrome was observed after getting Shingrix. Fainting can also happen. The most common side effects are pain, redness, and swelling at the injection site, muscle pain, tiredness, headache, shivering, fever, and upset stomach. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Shingrix today.
Over 1 million people have put Super Beats by Human blood pressure support supplements to the test. And the numbers tell the story. We have over 80,000 five-star ratings and reviews. We're trusted by over 120 pro and college sports teams. Super Beats is the #1 selling beet brand. The only #1 doctor, pharmacist, and cardiologist recommended beet brand for heart health support. See why we've won the hearts of people across America and get a free month supply on all bundles at superbeats.com.
Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. For almost 20 years, Abacus Life has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors. And in just seconds, you can use the free calculator at abacuspays.com to learn what your policy might be worth.
For many of my clients, selling their life insurance to Abacus was right for them and their estate plan.
Don't sell or lapse your policy without going to abacuspays.com first. There are no fees and no obligations. Get the real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
One way to avoid expensive car repair bills is to be a race car driver. The other is endurance. You could never pay for covered car repairs again.
In my first year with Endurance, they covered a $14,000 engine replacement.
As a certified mechanic, I always recommend that my customers have an auto protection plan. You never know when a breakdown can strike, and you need coverage that you can count on.
Without Endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With Endurance, you're covered. Even better, you pick the mechanic you trust.
Endurance covers nearly every car on the road, up to 20 years old.
They cover a ton on the car.
So, who's going to pay for your next car repair? You or Endurance?
Act now for $300 off any plan. Plus, a full year of elite benefits, a $2,000 value free, and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-855-629-0641 now for a free quote.
Is your shower trying to tell you something? Is getting in and out of the bathtub becoming a safety concern? Are you worried about the cost of a bathroom remodel that could go on for weeks and weeks? Well, now you can have a gorgeous new bath or shower that's safer at a price you can afford with a one-day jacuzzi bath remodel.
It was done the same day. We did not have to wait. It is amazing.
I would give this whole experience an A+. I definitely wish I would have called sooner.
From soft close shower doors and adjustable shower heads to features like grab bars and custom seats that combine safety and style, it's never been easier. Get your free design consultation, schedule your one-day installation, and start loving your new bath or shower right away.
Only weeks left to get waived installation and no interest and no payments for up to 1 year. Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-991-0632. That's 800-991-0632. Call now.
When we say it'll be on time, they expect it to be on time.
Turn shipping to your advantage.
Keep those expectations with reliable ground shipping.
Thanks, Brandon.
With USPS Ground Advantage.
Bounce back fast from heartburn with Tums Gummy Bites and love food back.
Before the break, I told you about J.D. Vance's controversial memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, which has led to criticism about his backstory and his political and professional opportunism. I'm joined now by one of those critics, Dr. Meredith McCarroll. She's the co-editor of the book Appalachian Reckoning, A Region Responds to Hillbilly Elegy. And this week, she made headlines with a Boston Globe piece directly responding to Vance's new national profile titled J.D. Vance and I Share Appalachian Roots. He's just the latest to exploit the region for personal profit. Dr. Meredith McCarroll, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you having you here. Let me ask you about a thing you recently published. It was a beautiful tribute titled A Love Letter to Appalachia, in which you write, when places are scarred, it's easy to look away from them while extracting what is needed from them. Simply put, the stories we tell about a place matter. The ways we understand groups of people directly impact how they are treated. But this is no eulogy. We needed no elegy. Tell me what you mean.
Well, I think a lot of people in this broad and diverse and vibrant region that is Appalachia felt really misrepresented by J.D. Vance, both when Hillbilly Elegy was released, but then most recently as he stepped into the spotlight to speak on behalf of Appalachians. And he speaks about Appalachia as a place that is dead and therefore needs an elegy. To call his book Hillbilly Elegy signifies that to him, this is a place that is only worth leaving and looking back on as a place that you have to leave. So I think that it's important for people within the region to speak on behalf of the region as a place that is still very vibrant and does not need a eulogy or an elegy.
And one of the things you point out in your work is that there are things that are wrong in the region. There are things that are wrong in all parts of the country. It's who you blame. It's how you understand the context of what's wrong. I mean, that's a problem of this country. It's a problem with our popular and polarizing movements all over the world. But your point here is it's not that nothing's wrong with the region. It's that there are forces to blame, and J.D. Vance has them wrong.
Sure. And like you said, there are problems anywhere that you look closely enough and start to pay attention. But the way that you look at those problems is important. And so the example that most readily comes to mind that I think you cited earlier is the one of J.D. Vance looking at his mother's own addiction and not being able to place that in the context of a broad opioid crisis, where the county and the area where she was living and where she grew up was targeted. It was a target for Purdue Pharma. And being able to just instead blame her for her addiction and not understand that this is in a context of a system, and thinking about systems of oppression, structures that keep people down and keep certain people at the top. For me, it's really important when we're taking a broad look across time to think about what is the history of Appalachia? What has happened over and over in Appalachia? And you can look at a lot of different groups of minoritized people to ask these same questions. What tends to happen again and again? And if you look at Appalachia, you see this extractive cycle where the place and the people in the place are belittled and are looked down upon in order to justify taking what is needed from those places and from those people. So yes, I think he's blaming the victim.
And this is important because he's actually in a position of authority. This is not just you writing a book about somebody who wrote a book that you think misses the point. He is a United States senator and now might be the vice president of the United States. So getting that narrative or interpreting what's actually wrong incorrectly now could have dangerous policy implications for the people in that part of the country.
It could. I believe strongly that whenever you tell a story, it needs to be truthful. And I believe that there is damage that is done when anyone tells a mistruth. When, his book before he was a senator, this book was a national bestseller. It was used as a way to try to understand Trump's ascendance. And so lots of people read this book and thought, okay, this is what Appalachia is. This is an explanation from the inside, because he positions himself as an insider in this really interesting way. And yeah, I think that there is damage no matter how powerful a person is. There's a responsibility to tell the truth. And now I think that, yes, he has even more potential to do deeper damage because he's in a position of authority, which I believe was his intention all along.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. What do you think influenced his portrayal of Appalachia, which he's a little bit removed from, given his actual upbringing, but he leans into it because it's a good storytelling device for him. What caused him to misrepresent it?
Well, I think that it is a ready story. It's a ready myth that he leaned upon. And my understanding is that he had Amy Chua was a big influence for him at Yale. And my understanding is that Amy Chua kind of encouraged him to tell particular parts of the story. So one example is he writes in Hillbilly Elegy about, he sort of positions himself as the dumb hillbilly when he's at Yale and feels like a fish out of water. And I think that's an experience that a lot of people who have changed places and positions and social classes can understand. But he talks about not knowing which fork to use at a dinner. And he leans into that story in a particular way, I believe, in order to show that he changed, that he once was this kind of silly hillbilly, and now he's no longer in that position. He got out of that. He got his education. He left, but he's trying to not be the Yale graduate. That's not the story that gets told about him most often. He wants the story to be that he got up and out by his, pulling up his own bootstraps from this place that is a difficult place to be raised in. And he did have a difficult upbringing, but he is casting he's painting with a really broad stroke about the entire region and saying that what happened to him is, in fact, the experience of Appalachians everywhere.
Dr. McCarroll, thank you for joining us. Dr. Meredith McCarroll is the co-editor of the book Appalachia Reckoning, A Region Responds to Hillbilly Elegy. Coming up, with at least 8 people reportedly in consideration to be Kamala Harris's running mate, we'll examine what each brings to the table, or rather, to the ballot box. Senator Gary Peters of Michigan joins me to discuss the importance of his state in this 2024 election. That's ahead on Velshi.
Did you know there's a way to cut your dishwashing time by 50%? Try Dawn Power Wash Dish Spray. It removes 99% of grease and grime in half the time. Dawn Power Wash has 3 cleaning boosters not found in traditional dish soaps that remove food and grease 5 times faster. And because it cleans so well, you can replace multiple cleaning products for counters, stoves, and even laundry stains. Try Dawn Power Wash Dish Spray. Brand power, helping you buy better.
That colonoscopy for getting screens while I'm delaying. I heard I had a choice. I know the name. That's what I'm saying. Cologuard?
Cologuard.
Cologuard.
Screen for colon cancer. At home, like you want.
You the man.
Actually, he's a box.
Cologuard is a one-of-a-kind way to screen for colon cancer that's effective and non-invasive. It's for people 45 plus at average risk, not high risk. False positive and negative results may occur. Ask your provider for Cologuard.
I did it my way.
Whether you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s and beyond, I know you're seeing changes in the skin on your body. Don't panic. It's never too late to transform yourself and your skin. And Crepe Erase is here to do just that.
Crepe Erase has been delivering smoother, firmer, younger-looking skin for almost a decade.
Did you know that Crepe Erase is America's #1 selling anti-aging body treatment system for dry, crepey skin? That's because it works, people.
The Crepe Erase two-step system is clinically shown to reduce crepey-looking skin the very first time you use it.
I just love my skin. I didn't love it before. I love it now.
And now there's big news. We're introducing the Skin Revitalizing Tool, specially designed to amplify the power of Crepe Erase.
This is the Skin Revitalizing Tool. It is new and it is free. Yes, you heard me right. It's free when you get the products.
Crepe Erase is already an incredible deal at only $49.95. But when you order today, we'll send you the Skin Revitalizing Tool, a $129 value free.
I mean, it's like having a spa in your hand.
And you'll also receive our luxurious neck repair treatment, a $49 value, free.
Since using Crepe Erase, the skin on my neck looks airbrushed. I love it.
These two incredible bonuses are valued together at $178, but they're our free gift to you.
Crepe Erase is something I recommend to my patients because it works.
Don't wait. Get all this, a $247 value for only $49.95, plus free shipping.
If you're not reveling in your younger looking soft and sexy skin, just return the bottles, even if they're used up and empty, and we'll give you your money back.
This is a limited time offer that will not last. Scan the QR code, call, or go to crepeerase.com and order right now.
More than ever, you need clarity. More than ever, trust is everything. More than ever, democracy needs an ally. Facts must win the day. And questions need to be answered. Because more than ever, the work we do will reverberate for generations.
Turning now to the Middle East, where an Israeli airstrike on a school being used for displaced people in central Gaza has killed 30 people and wounded about 100 more, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Israel says the strike targeted Hamas members who were using the facility as a command and control center. Earlier, the Israeli military ordered the evacuation of parts of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, which has been designated a humanitarian zone ahead of an anticipated strike in the area. Israel said the anticipated operation is in response to rocket fire originating from the area and will target Hamas militants. This all comes while Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in the United States. He met with former President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago yesterday in this what appears to be a staged cabinet-type meeting, on the heels of separate meetings at the White House with President Biden and Vice President Harris on Thursday and his address to Congress on Wednesday. Ceasefire hostage negotiations are scheduled to continue tomorrow, this time in Italy, between the United States, Israel, and Egypt and Qatar, who are acting as mediators for Hamas. We'll be right back.
Have you ever considered getting a walk-in tub? Well, look no further. Safe Step's best offer just got better. Now, when you purchase your brand new Safe Step walk-in tub, you'll receive a free shower package. Yes, a free shower package. And if you call today, you'll also receive 15% off your entire order. Now you can enjoy the best of both worlds. The therapeutic benefits of a warm, soothing bath that can help increase mobility, relieve pain, boost energy, and even improve sleep. Or, if you prefer, you can take a refreshing shower, all in one product. Call now to receive a free shower package plus 15% off your brand new Safe Step walk-in tub.
Call now, 1-800-625-9158.
Blackstone knew you deserved a better way of cooking. And you responded, igniting an outdoor cooking revolution, creating better backyard celebrations. You'll make every breakfast, lunch, and dinner better. Cook anything, anytime, anywhere. Go to your nearest Blackstone retailer or blackstoneproducts.com now and make everything better on a Blackstone.
Why use 10 buckets of water when you can use one fire extinguisher? And to fight heartburn, why take 10 antacids throughout the day when you can take one Prilosec? For easier heartburn relief, 1 beats 10. Prilosec OTC. 1 pill, 24 hours, 0 heartburn.
Progressive makes it easy to save with a quick commercial auto quote online. So you can get back to your monster to-do list.
Really?
Get a quote at progressivecommercial.com.
Hey folks, Chris Cunahan here with Leaf Filter, America's largest gutter and gutter protection company. Leaf Filter has over 150 locations and has been installed on over 1 million homes. We've been protecting homes now for over 20 years. Our patented technology offers total protection for your home and comes with a lifetime transferable warranty. The process is simple. Give us a call to schedule your free gutter inspection. If you decide to move forward with the project, you put nothing down at all. 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com today.
Look at this. I love my new body. I love my new shape.
This summer, feel confident in anything with Sonobello One Visit Permanent Fat Removal.
I saw the results immediately.
I feel amazing.
My waist is tiny. I'm very, very happy.
I'm nearly 50.
And my abs haven't been this flat since before I had kids.
For a limited time, take advantage of Sonobello's best offer of the year. Call or go to sonobello.com.
It will change your life. It did for me.
After Homoglow cleaned our place for $19, we fired our old housekeeper. Homoglow tackled everything, from our kitchen to our bathroom, all our laundry. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19.
Looking for a way to stretch the dollar? With Insurify, you can cut your car insurance bill in half. Scroll through dozens of prices and tap to switch online. That's it. No phone calls and no wasted time. Go to Insurify and save today.
Is it safe to say then that if in fact you were offered the role of Vice President Harris's running mate, would you accept that?
Look, I have so much respect for Kamala Harris, and it would be hard not to consider it seriously.
This is not about me, but I've always, always when I've had, the chance to serve, I think that's very important to do.
I am honored to be considered, and regardless of what comes next, I'll do everything I can between now and Election Day to elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States of America.
The vice president now has a deeply personal decision to make, one that she is obviously quite familiar with because she went through it with then candidate Biden when she was selected to serve as the vice president of the United States. That is a deeply personal decision that should be made free from any political pressure.
What do Oscar winners always say? It's an honor to even be nominated. With Vice President Harris at the top of the Democratic ticket, the search is on, and so is the schmoozing for the right person to be her running mate. The party's officially set an August 7th deadline for that decision. There are some reasons for that, but we'll catch you up on everything you need to know. 8 Democrats are in contention to be the Democratic vice presidential nominee. You can see them here in alphabetical order. Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. There are lots of governors on that list for good reason. Campaign sources tell NBC News Harris is looking for someone who can be a real, quote, governing partner who can be effective on day one. This morning, the Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is participating in a Harris campaign volunteer kickoff event in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Tonight, Governor Beshear of Kentucky will be hosting a campaign event in Iowa before heading to Georgia on Sunday. Each of these contenders brings something different to the Harris campaign in terms of wrangling votes in swing states. For more on the sprint campaign for Democrats, I'm joined by Yamiche El-Sindor, NBC News Washington correspondent, and Christopher Devine, associate professor of political science at Dayton University and author of several important books on politics, including Do Running Mates Matter? Welcome to both of you. Thank you for being with us. And Chris, let's just start with the title of your book. Do running mates matter? There's a lot of conventional wisdom these days that they don't. And when you look at Trump's pick of J.D. Vance, you almost wonder whether he cared about it. But I think for Kamala Harris, the math is a little different here. It does matter.
Absolutely, Ali, and thank you for having me on. This definitely matters for Kamala Harris, and to voters it matters for the reasons really that you were just describing, what she said were her top criteria, which, by the way, most presidential candidates say that. Above all else, they're looking for someone who could be vice president of the United States or president, even on day one, if something should happen to the president, could take over as commander in chief. That's an important credibility test. And just to distill down a lot of our research into one point, the main way that voters are influenced by the choice of a running mate is in terms of what it tells about the presidential candidate. So if she were to make a responsible pick, then voters would look at that and say, you know what, she has pretty good judgment. Maybe I'm that much more likely to vote for her. If she goes chasing after a swing state just to win an election with this, and voters see through that, maybe picking someone not as experienced, they will regard her judgment more poorly and maybe be less likely to vote for her.
Yamiche, depending on how you count this, there are as many as 12 people potentially in the race. There are these 8 that we just put on the screen. I've looked at your reporting, and there's a lot of people who seem to think it's down to about 3. It's down to Mark Kelly, Roy Cooper of North Carolina, and Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania. Give me your sense of what you're hearing about what they're down to.
Yeah, well, right now, what I'm hearing is that everything is early and that this process really has just begun in earnest, is what the campaign is saying. Close campaign aides as well as Harris allies have been telling me for weeks that there was sort of a quiet look at what a campaign could look like while President Biden was still making his decision. So they aren't starting sort of exactly from scratch, but I would caution people to say that I have been hearing those 3 names that you just mentioned from several sources, but I don't think that they're finalists. I think that they're just people that people like right now. But this vetting process could absolutely change that. And you're right to say that. I've heard it's about a dozen people that they're looking at. So I think it's a little too early to say who the sort of list is winding down to. That being said, there is this idea that, and Charles just touched on this, there is this idea that they want to bring in an electorate. So internal polling, according to a source familiar with the campaign's thinking, told me that they're looking at trying to bring in suburban women as well as older white voters. Those are the people that they believe President Biden would have brought to the table, that they think that a running mate can help with. They also are looking at, frankly, a middle-aged or older white man. I just talked to someone this morning who was telling me they don't want to be in the situation that former President Trump finds himself in now, which is that J.D. Vance is sort of now becoming a story with all the cat lady memes and all sorts of things. They want somebody who is stable, someone who is a good judgment, but also someone who they really feel like adds value to the ticket and isn't going to be sort of a side story. But one of the reasons why they're looking specifically at older, middle-aged white men, I've been hearing, is because they really think that the nation wants to see a sort of ticket that reflects the country. And that includes, of course, including white men in this. And also they're trying to appeal. One source told me, who again was familiar with the campaign's thinking, that there were some sort of racist dudes who might feel comfortable, again, their language, racist dudes who might feel uncomfortable voting for a black woman, but who do not like Trump and didn't like Biden, and they need a little bit of, quote, extra validation to see themselves reflected on the ticket. That might make them a little bit more comfortable. In terms of path to victory, they're looking at North Carolina, Georgia, but they're also not going to abandon the Midwest. Let's remember that the vice president kicked off her campaign in Wisconsin, but they're also still, of course, going to be looking at Michigan. But also, someone just talked to me this morning, Nevada, the West, is also something they're really interested in. So a lot going into this decision, but definitely very, very early.
Chris, let's talk about that distinction that Yamiche is making, the distinction between coming from a state and possibly winning that state's electoral votes, like Mark Kelly from Arizona or Roy Cooper from North Carolina or Tim Walz from Wisconsin, versus picking a candidate who appeals to a demographic with which you can benefit from shoring up. And some of those will be overlapping, but what's your sense of geography versus demography here?
So, Ellie, this is something that my co-author and I, Kyle Kopko, studied extensively, including our books, Do Running Mates Matter, to look at to what extent do vice presidential candidates deliver their home state or even a region. We just find very little evidence of that. Also, in terms of demographic appeal, it's often assumed that if you pick someone from a certain demographic group, particularly when it's been women vice presidential candidates, that you will therefore increase your vote share among that group of voters. We just find very little evidence of it. Now, Kamala Harris did do better among black and women voters, and black women voters in particular in 2020, but just barely. So if they're basing this pick on trying to pick up a state or trying to pick up a demographic group, I think they're overestimating the influence of a vice presidential candidate. I go back to, it tells you about Kamala Harris. What story does she want to tell about herself? And if she were to appeal to a particular group of voters, especially in swing states, I think that group could be more moderate voters. So by choosing someone who is on the more moderate side, could be Andy Beshear, could be Josh Shapiro, Mark Kelly, that might just influence how people perceive her. Maybe think, wow, I thought she was really liberal. Maybe she's not. She picked Andy Beshear.
Let me ask you this, Yamiche. There's also this argument about what the campaign leans into ideologically. Kamala Harris has been strong on abortion. She's been strong on issues like guns. But what we saw this week was something different. She was leaning into freedom. She was leaning into the future. She was leaning into sort of a bright future, contrasting it with the threat that Donald Trump often talks about of danger. That's a departure. Many of us are very concerned about sort of the end of democracy as we know it in America. Donald Trump said again yesterday that if you vote this time, you won't have to ever vote again. I don't know what that kind of weirdness means. But talk to me about Kamala Harris's positioning ideologically and how that figures into this vice president stakes.
Well, it's a key question because there are, I think, two things going on here. The first is, I'll just say that there is this sort of thesis and in sort of easy way to explain the way that she's pitching herself to the American people, which is that I'm a prosecutor and he is a fraudster, a cheat, and a sexual abuser. That's the language that she's been using since she launched this campaign. So there's that bucket of things. But she's been very clear to say this election just isn't about me versus Donald Trump. It's actually about sort of the vision for America. And she's been saying Republicans want to go in the past. They want to bring us back to a place where we were less inclusive, and I want to bring us to the future. Kamala Harris is saying, and I want that to be an America where everyone feels like they can have a piece of this country, and everyone is welcome to the table, including Black and Latino folks, but also gay and lesbian people, also, of course, also white women, thinking about the fact that they had their own Zoom where all those people joined. But I also want to talk to people about sort of what democracy really means, because when I'm talking to people that are close to the vice president, they're saying that it's one and the same. Freedom is democracy. Healthcare is a functioning democracy. Paid family leave is a functioning democracy. All the things that she's talking about are a part of the democracy. So if you take it away from just, okay, our elections are going to be secure and there's integrity there, their idea is that a functioning democracy has freedom in it. Women would not be told that you have sort of the government controlling your body in a working democracy. So it's not just about elections. And I think that that's the message you're going to hear over and over again from the vice president.
I have so many more questions for both of you, so we must do this again. Thanks to both of you for joining us this morning. Christopher Devine is an associate professor of political science at the University of Dayton. He's the author of multiple important books, including Do Running Mates Matter, The VP Advantage, and I'm here to ask for your vote. Yamiche Alcindor is the Washington correspondent with NBC News. We'll be right back.
Higher shipping rates may be the cost of doing business, but at what cost?
Turn shipping to your advantage with low-cost ground shipping from the United States Postal Service.
For more than a decade, Farxiga has been trusted again and again and again.
Farxiga.
Ask your doctor about Farxiga.
Hi! Need new glasses? Buy one pair, get one free at VisionWorks.
How can you see me squinting?
I can't, I'm just telling everyone. Hey!
Buy one pair, get one free for back to school. VisionWorks. See the difference.
The darkness of bipolar depression made me feel like I was losing interest in the things I love. Then I found a chance.
And when we don't want to pay, your mom and I can still get hundreds of channels for free.
Sling is really keeping this family together.
You have no idea.
You have no idea.
Sling, the live TV you love, Sling.
We planned well for retirement, but I wish we had more cash.
You think those two have any idea?
That they can sell their life insurance policy for cash, so they're basically sitting on a gold mine? I don't think they have a clue.
That's crazy.
Well, not everyone knows Coventry has helped thousands of people sell their policies for cash, even term policies.
I can't believe they're just sitting up there.
Sitting on all this cash.
If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you can sell all or part of it to Coventry, even a term policy, for cash or a combination of cash and coverage with no future premiums.
Someone needs to tell them that they're sitting on a gold mine and you have no idea. Hey, guys! You're sitting on a gold mine! Come on,
Do you hear that?
I don't hear anything anymore.
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-459-2600 or visit coventrydirect.com.
Coming up on another hour of Velshi, like most elections, the 2024 race is going to come down to a handful of swing states. I'll talk to Senator Gary Peters of the all-important state of Michigan. And Kamala Harris' campaign has gotten quite the boost from the TikTok generation, from memes to coconut trees to Brat Summer. I'll try my best to explain it all to you. And I'll call to order this week's meeting of the Velshi Band Book Club. Emily Danforth joins me to discuss her book, The Miseducation of Cameron Post. Another hour of Velshi starts right now. Hey, good morning. It's Saturday, July 27th, with only 101 days left until Election Day. A monumental change at the top of the Democratic ticket has shifted the dynamics of this year's presidential race. Kamala Harris's 6-day-old presidential campaign has completely re-energized her party's base as we enter the final few months of this election cycle. Democrats have quickly rallied behind Harris's candidacy, which has led to record-breaking fundraising and mobilized volunteers to help Democratic candidates up and down the ballot. Many of the party's primary names have also followed Joe Biden's lead in endorsing her presidential bid. Top congressional Democrats, including Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and Nancy Pelosi, have already thrown their support behind Harris. And most recently, she received a high-profile endorsement from two of the most popular Democrats in the country, Barack and Michelle Obama, who pledged to, quote, do everything we can to make sure she wins in November. The vast majority of Democratic delegates have already endorsed Harris as well, which makes her the party's de facto nominee going into next month's convention. But like most of the recent presidential elections, this race is going to come down to a handful of swing states, especially those in the industrial Midwest, which encompass parts of several states in the Midwest and the Northeast. As support for Biden declined in the battleground states of Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada in recent months, the industrial Midwest has offered Democrats the best path to victory. Until last month's consequential debate, Biden remained competitive in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and notably Michigan, a state that had been of significance to Biden's presidency and re-election bid. Michigan helped deliver Biden the victory in 2020, particularly in the Detroit metro area. It's also where he made history last September. After the United Auto Workers went on strike, he joined them on the picket line, the first time a sitting president had ever done that. As a result, he earned the UAW's endorsement all the way back in January, which bolstered his aspirations to be, quote, the most pro-union president in American history. While many unions, like the AFL-CIO, the American Federation of Teachers, and the Service Employees International Union, were quick to back Harris this week, the UAW has held off doing so, at least so far. But Michigan also exposes some of Biden's weaknesses. The president faced fierce opposition from the state's large Arab American population over his stance toward the war in Gaza, which led to the Abandon Biden movement, which called for primary voters to challenge his re-election bid. It was particularly effective in Michigan, even though Biden still easily won the Democratic primary in February. More than 100,000 people cast a protest vote for uncommitted, which was a sign of trouble for his campaign. Michigan may have